Hey everyone, it's Pastor Ian here. It's another one of our daily briefings, and today we're going to be in Joshua chapter 7. Now this is a really long chapter, but the basic idea is pretty simple. So you remember in Joshua chapter 6 when they had the siege of Jericho and the walls come down, and they were told to take all the precious things and to give it to God. Well, there was another part, which is that they were supposed to destroy all of the other things, not the gold, not the silver, not the precious stones. They weren't supposed to keep those things. This wasn't about making the people of God richer. It was about taking the land back. But there was one guy who chose not to. He chose to take some of the things he was supposed to destroy. And God sees this and he's unhappy. He is unhappy that his people are unfaithful. So Joshua sends some spies to a neighboring town because they have to keep conquering. So they go and they report back. They're like, actually, it's not that big. There aren't that many soldiers there. So really, we don't need the full army. So they send 2,000 to 3,000 people. And they get rinsed. They get chased away. They're not strong enough. They can't take the city. And some of them die. And they come back to Joshua. And Joshua's like, wait a second. What is happening? How are we losing? We're supposed to be winning because God's on our side. And then God comes to him and says, oh, don't you know? Well, you were not honoring the covenant. And basically then there's the section where everybody in the community, everybody in the people of God, they have to come forward and they have to say whether or not they took anything they weren't supposed to take. And then this one guy comes forward and he says, forgive me because I took things. I saw this beautiful Babylonian robe. I saw this gold. I saw the silver and I took it. This is right after the Battle of Jericho, right after God shows his people what he can do for them when they believe in him. How quickly some of their hearts were turning against God. Even after he did a miracle upon miracle after miracle, the people's greed was still too much. Now, not all the people, but some of the people. Their hearts were so against God at that moment where they wanted something more than to obey him and follow him. Now, it's easy for us to point at Achan's family and be like, man, that guy was terrible and he really didn't know what he was doing. He was so unfaithful. But we're not much better. We're really not. God can answer our prayers and we can say, rejoice, rejoice, praise God, and then we sin. We gossip about our neighbors. We don't tell the truth, we lie. We don't honor God with our tithes and our offerings or with our time. We don't worship him the way that our hearts should. We don't spend the time to say, God, you are the creator of all. You are worthy of everything we have. To give him our lives. The fact of the matter is that our hearts are, by nature at this point, turned away from God. Where the natural inclination of our hearts is to not follow him. It's to not obey him. It's to do something totally different. It's to go our own way. And for us, even though we may be in quarantine or maybe we're in isolation, maybe we're practicing social distancing, maybe we're praying to God, please help us, and at the same time, we're sinning against him. Or maybe he does answer your prayer. And you say, I will never sin again, God, as long as you do this, and you do it anyways. God's agreement with his people was, be faithful to me and I'll be faithful to you. And that's hard because we're not faithful. Our natural heart does not lead us to be faithful. But the good thing is that God is forgiving, and he does give us second chances. At Easter, we see that God chose to die for his people, knowing that they would sin against him, but choosing to live for them anyways, to die for them anyways. So let our hearts not be discouraged. Let us work towards being faithful in everything we do, to be loving and caring and kind to the people around us, to honor God with our lives. But when we fail, when we make a mistake, to say, God, forgive me, for I am but a sinner. And to never give up on trying to do what is right. It's easy to just say, oh, well, I could never do it. Nobody's perfect. God's not asking you to be perfect. He's asking for you to be faithful. So let's be faithful together.